What if I told you that a single invention didn't just connect two coasts, but tore the very fabric of an entire world apart? That the promise of progress was also a harbinger of loss? To understand this, you have to imagine a world that no longer exists. A world of vast, unmapped wilderness, where the horizon stretched on forever, and the only paths were those forged by the bison and the brave. This was the American West in the mid-19th century, a land of staggering beauty and brutal isolation. It was a place where distance wasn't just a number. It was a formidable enemy that separated families, stifled commerce, and kept the continent a fractured, sprawling collection of territories. For generations, pioneers, mountain men, and countless Native American tribes had carved out a hard-won existence here. They lived by the rhythms of the land, respecting its power and its unforgiving nature. The Cheyenne hunted on the Great Plains. The Shoshone followed ancient trails, and a rugged, independent spirit defined every mile. This was a world of slow journeys by horseback and wagon train, where a trip from New York to San Francisco could take months and was a life-threatening odyssey in itself. But a new idea was taking root, a dream that promised to conquer this great distance. The idea was simple, yet audacious. To build a line of steel that would stretch from one ocean to the other, a bridge of iron and wood that would bind the nation together. The visionaries called it the Transcontinental Railroad. They saw it as the ultimate symbol of American ingenuity and ambition, a project that would make fortunes, speed up the mail, and unlock the West's rich resources. Yet, for every visionary, there was someone who saw the coming change with a sense of dread. For many, this was not progress, but an invasion, a scar upon the land. The story of the Transcontinental Railroad isn't just a tale of engineering marvels. It's a human story of colliding worlds, of ambition against tradition, of progress against preservation, and of how a line of steel tracks, cutting to the heart of the wilderness, changed everything forever. The race was on. Starting in Sacramento, California, the Central Pacific Railroad faced the monumental task of conquering the Sierra Nevada mountains. The Union Pacific, meanwhile, began its march westward from Omaha, Nebraska, across the seemingly endless Great Plains. This was a war against nature, time, and human limits, fought not with guns but with steel and sweat. The Central Pacific's journey was a battle against rock. Under the leadership of four ambitious entrepreneurs, the Big Four, they had a vision, but a severe lack of labor. The men who took the job were often rugged pioneers, Civil War veterans, and Irish immigrants, but they weren't enough. They were met with the unforgiving granite of the Sierras, which seemed to defy their every effort. It was Charles Crocker, one of the Big Four, who dared to try something different. "We will try Chinese," he declared. The decision was met with skepticism and outright racism. But a crew of Chinese laborers was hired, and they proved their critics wrong. These men, often called coolies with a derogatory sneer, were skilled, meticulous, and incredibly disciplined. They worked with a relentless efficiency that astounded the foreman. They lived on a diet of rice, dried fish, and vegetables, which kept them healthier than their meat and whiskey-fueled American counterparts. They hung from wicker baskets on sheer cliff faces, drilling holes to place explosive nitroglycerin. The work was so dangerous that it said they averaged one fatality for every foot of tunnel carved through mountains. They blasted their way through 15 tunnels, including the 1,659-foot Summit Tunnel, a testament to their quiet, unyielding grit. This wasn't just a job for them. It was a way to send money home and, for many, a path to a better life, a path paved with unimaginable sacrifice. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Union Pacific was laying track with a different kind of ferocity. Their chief engineer, Grenville Dodge, was a war veteran who ran the operation like a military campaign. His army was a diverse force of Irish immigrants, former slaves, and Confederate veterans, all working side by side in a strange and tense alliance. The plains were flat, But they were not easy. The heat was scorching, the winters were brutal, and the constant threat of Native American resistance loomed. The railroad was seen as an invading force, a symbol of the end of their way of life. The Union Pacific hired armed guards, and conflicts were frequent and violent. But the railroad's most devastating impact wasn't just in the conflicts. It was in the destruction of the natural world. The tracks cut to the great buffalo herd's migratory routes, disrupting an ecosystem that had sustained native tribes for centuries. In a deliberate and cynical move, railroad companies even offered buffalo hunting tours, encouraging passengers to shoot the animals from their train windows for sport. The buffalo, which were central to the Native American way of life, providing food, shelter, clothing, and spiritual connection, were slaughtered by the tens of thousands. The railroad didn't just bring people west. It actively helped to dismantle the very foundation of the cultures it was invading. As the two lines pushed closer, a new kind of town sprang up in their wake, a hell on wheels. These were chaotic, lawless settlements that moved with the railhead, filled with gamblers, saloon keepers, and outlaws. They were a raw, unfiltered snapshot of the American frontier, as most desperate and untamed. The railroad, in its relentless pursuit of progress, was leaving behind a trail of chaos, exploitation, and cultural devastation. Finally, the day came. After years of backbreaking labor and unimaginable sacrifice, the two tracks were just feet apart. It was May 10th, 1869, at Promontory Summit, Utah. The locomotives, Union Pacific's number 119 and Central Pacific's Jupiter, stood nose to nose, their brass shining, their steam hissing in the cold desert air. Dignitaries, workers, and journalists gathered to witness the final act. Leland Stanford, the president of the Central Pacific, raised a silver-plated sledgehammer. In a moment of triumph, he swung, and with a resounding thud, he drove the ceremonial golden spike into the final tie. A wire connected to the spike sent a telegraph message across the nation. Done. The crowd cheered. Bells rang across the country. The nation was now connected, a single body bound by a ribbon of steel. But as the cameras flashed, one has to wonder what was truly captured in that moment. Was it just a celebration of human achievement? Or was it also a silent farewell to a world that had just been erased? The railroad was complete, but the story of what was lost was only just beginning. The cheers at Promontory Summit echoed across a changed nation. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad was more than just a historical event. It was a societal earthquake. The months-long journey from coast to coast was now a matter of days. A New Yorker could read a San Francisco newspaper, only a week old. The time zones we use today were created to organize the train schedules. Towns like Cheyenne and Sacramento exploded in size, becoming hubs of commerce and connection. The railroad moved people, goods, and, most importantly, ideas at a speed the continent had never known. The West was no longer a far-off, mysterious frontier. It was now within reach, ready to be exploited. But progress, as always, came at a staggering cost. The celebration of the Golden Spike was not for everyone. For the thousands of Chinese laborers who built the Central Pacific, the moment of triumph was followed by immediate dismissal and discrimination. Their incredible contribution was largely erased from history for over a century. For the Native American tribes, the railroad was an iron snake that brought with it the destruction of their sacred land and way of life. It accelerated their forced removal and the end of the nomadic existence that had sustained them for generations. The railroad was a double-edged sword, a gleaming symbol of human ambition and ingenuity that also became a monument to what was lost. The untamed spirit of the Old West, the vast open spaces, the ancient cultures, and the self-sufficient pioneers, all were irrevocably altered by that ribbon of steel. In our race for connection and convenience, we paved over the very world we were so eager to tame. The steel tracks didn't just move goods, they moved history. They were a testament to what we can build, but also a haunting reminder of what we can destroy. So, the next time you see a train, listen to the distant sound of its whistle. It is the echo of our triumph, but also the memory of a world that vanished in the dust of relentless ambition. And in our quest for a connected future, how often do we forget to look back at the path we've paved and all that we left behind?